Eat dirt, Tommy.
Hello people, Jugglet here. In this video I'll be creating a concept for Chucky as a killer and his power/perks. Chucky in the movies is a doll, so he'll be known as the doll or the toy, whichever tickles your fancy more. I know when most people try to make any form of concept or behavior's main issue with this killer is his size, and how it would work with him being so small and being able to pick up survivors, so I've got a solution for this. Here's my idea. How the doll works is this: you spawn as the body of the real Chucky, aka Charles Lee Ray, and he's a bad man, he's a murderer. You load into the game as a reanimated version of him, which is basically a slow-moving corpse. You move at 90% movement speed in this form. So in your zombie Charles form, you can see 5 Chucky dolls spaced around the map. You use the action button to enter a Chucky doll, giving you no terror radius. Your terror radius will always be on the corpse of Charles, and it's a 40-meter terror radius, so it's a big one. The moment you enter a Chucky doll, the corpse slowly walks towards Chucky with a beam linking the two together. The beam is meant to act as the souls being linked together, but it serves another purpose in this instance. Any survivor who crosses the beam screams, revealing their location, and suffers from the exposed status effects for 20 seconds. The beam cannot pass through objects, however the corpse still follows Chucky. What does this mean? Survivors are forced to use skill to loop and not leave loops. They're basically wanting to use the loop they're on to not make themselves exposed or their other teammates, which to me is refreshing compared to the Knight and the Skull Muncher or whatever her name is. When in the form of the corpse, the slow-moving version, survivors are insta-downs. It's the trade-off for having no movement speed and no catch-up mechanics. In Chucky form, you move quickly with no terror radius. Whilst in Chucky form, you can press the secondary power button to command the corpse to stop for 10 seconds. You can use this to block loops or obstacles. Once used, it goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. So you can use it like a chessboard. You can place the corpse in a certain area and just make him stay still. And I figured also the corpse could only be as close as, say, 12 meters to Chucky. Swapping between corpse Charles and Chucky creates a loud noise for the survivors to hear, but they have no idea which doll you have swapped to. Once you swap from Chucky back to the corpse, the doll sits down until controlled again. You can use this to place dolls in certain areas. He is small, so he won't be able to block loops entirely. Chucky's lunge is more of a sprint than a lunge, but he still recovers the same as any other killer from missed lunges. And he can also break pallets by just using his hands, because he's meant to be the strength of a grown man, but in a doll. Here's a brief scenario of how his power would work at loops. Okay, so here's an example of Chucky, his beam, and a survivor, some tiles. So you've got Dwight here, you've got Chucky here, and then you've got the beam here. So the beam would be blocked by this section here. It would still pass through this window, so there's still a section what would get clipped by the beam, but then it'd be blocked again as soon as it came here. So the survivor could, if he wanted to, loop around here and try and be as tight as possible with his loops. Or he can leave the loop, but if he does leave the loop, he's risking all of his teammates getting exposed by the beam, because the beam will travel. With the corpse going at 90% movement speed and Chucky going at 117%, he will always be ahead of it. And I figured you'd have to hard lock it at, say, 12 meters range. You couldn't have them be on top of each other because it'd just be a bit silly, and the programming just wouldn't work for it. So yeah. Dwight's best bet is to try and stay on the loop as best as he can, not get exposed himself, because he can use the beams to his advantage and let it block it. Once he does get hit, that speed boost, he can then leave the loop, and hopefully that'll be a warning to his teammates that Chucky is, coming. And the idea of the terror radius as well being on the corpse would make some interesting plays with some of the perks you can use for terror radius, things like a Wesker build, but on the corpse. I do think Chucky would need to have some kind of voice call-outs as he swaps over, just so survivors know where he is, and maybe some of the laughing or something, just so you know he is coming. And he is visible, and I would give him a red stain, so he's constantly, the old red stain showing. But yeah, this is an example of how it would work with him. The beam would always get blocked by things, it would still go through windows. Okay, so a quick recap of his power is this: spawn as a slow-moving corpse who can insta-down with a 40-meter terror radius. Movement speed is 90%. 5 dolls spawn into the match. Swapping to the doll generates a loud notification, and he moves at 117%, which is slightly faster than the average killer, whilst in Chucky doll. The doll can command the corpse to stop for 10 seconds to block loops. Whilst in doll form, the corpse is linked to you with a beam. Survivors can see this beam, and if they do pass through it, they're exposed and revealed. So that's basically it for his power. He can be loud and slow, or fast and quiet, depending on how you want to play him, or you can be tactical with it. The world's your oyster. I also think he should be doing his iconic Chucky laugh as he's chasing you and saying maybe some of his lines, similar to how Wesker does, just so you have some idea where he comes from. I'd definitely give him a red stain as well. Maybe even the eyes of the doll, which is coming to life, can blink subtly, just like creepy little details, you know, all the good stuff. Okay, so that's his power out of the way. So what would be his teachable perks? First one is wanna play. All survivors suffer from the exposed status effect for 45 seconds at the start of the trial. It's simple. It's like a opposite to NOED, and it's got a time limit. It's not something where you have to hunt for the totem. Okay, so the next one, Hex Circulation. The first time you hit a survivor with a basic attack, they suffer from the exhausted status effect. This persists until the totem is cleansed. All 4 survivors can be exhausted, similar to Hex, the third seal. Okay, the third and final perk is Hidey Ho. For every survivor hutch, you can break a pallet before it has been thrown. 1 per survivor, so 4 pallets total can be broken before they're even thrown down. When I design a perk, I always want them to have the ability to create some kind of weird and wacky build, so Wanna Play and Lethal Pursuit would be a gross early game combo, but you'd have to use 2 perks really early on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this concept for him. It's a little different, and I think Chucky would be a great addition to the game. Like, subscribe, and other YouTube things. Take care.
Yeah.